you. Thank you very much. We will continue with the next presentation. We were told this presentation is the sole obstacle between you and lunch. So, let's do it fast. Next talk would be a global overview of current treaties, the transatlantic partnership and other treaties. And I want to invite our friends with whom we have a partnership, the economist Ignacio Martínez Cortés, a PhD degree in international economy by the Complutense University, Madrid. After his master degree studies were completed in the National Autonomous University, he became a professor in international affairs area, coordinator of the Trade Analysis Laboratory, NACEN, and also a member of the China, Latin American, and the Caribbean Area Network, more than 20 years of experience in business affairs and business trade agreements. He has participated in many publications, and he also participates in TV and internet programs. He has been interviewed in many programs. And just to conclude, we are on the process of creating a joint book of the UC&CS, TPP, and international treaties. So, thank you very much. Thank you. While they put the presentation on the screen, it is my pleasure to be with you. So I'm going to talk along with Rodrigo Hernandez, the part related to TPP, in something that you know very well, which is transaction costs. This is the net value to determine this exchange, trade exchange. And I mention this because a lot has been said about the fact of a trade war, that we're going to have commercial or trade blocks. When they talk about a trade zone, it could be the Asian Pacific region or the famous Pacific Basin. That's a trade zone. But if we strictly refer to a free trade zone or a zone like the European Union, we need to consider origin rules. We need to remember that origin stratification of commodities refer to products, refer to 5 methods, which is appellation of origin, origin, packaging of origin, and also the origin rule, in order to determine this exchange. So this presentation is about this. Origin rules, taking into consideration that TPP, as the UNCTAD says, it's a mega international treaty, or like the World Trade Organization says, it is a pluri-regional agreement that involves different ways of doing business. These treaties, now that they are implemented, will modify the multilateral regional structure on the way of doing businesses. Many treaties have proliferated since 1943. If we date back to trade prehistory with something related to the Benelux Treaty, up to the latest is not the TPP but the TIPP, which means a wide array of treaties. If we talk about the traditional naming convention, it says that these new mechanisms should be called ACRs, for its name in Spanish, Regional Commercial Agreements, and there are more than 100 regions talking about regional trade agreements, RTAs. So these regions have trade exchange by means of the free trade zones. A very quick data to overcome that obstacle that was mentioned by Mauricio lunchtime. This is the magnitude of the TPP, what it represents in terms of GDP and what it represents for trade. We need to remember what it was said a long time ago, that the Pacific Basin represented 47 of the world trade. Yes, strictly in this regional area, TPP, in this trade or duty preference agreements, it represents 25%, 11% of the world population and a lot of the direct private investment. What are the origin standards or norms? They are included in the World Trade of North America, the NAFTA, that was negotiated from 1991 and in December 11th, 1993. The World Trade Organization started in January the 1st, 1995. The NAFTA negotiates in chapters 4 and 5, and particularly 9, all topics related to origin rules. They first created these origin rules within the framework of the NAFTA, and then they transcended to multilateral level. In the multilateral environment, what it was GATT or OMC nowadays, we find it in the Article 97 of GATT related to origin rules. Then we had this transformation in 1995. Then WTO inherits its origin rules methodology. And this is something very important. If we cross the NAFTA methodology with the TPP, TPIP, then we find a new methodology to make business regarding origin rules. Why origin rules are so important? As you know, through the standardized or harmonized system, we have two types of information. First, duties. Number two, the standard to comply with. Duties will give you that duty preference. It is not the same that you pay 20% duties that, based on origin rules, to demonstrate that this product comes from the market where you have a free trade agreement. So with this certificate, you will provide this duty preference. That's why it is so important to study origin rules. This methodology was implemented in 1994, and they changed the naming convention. And it came from the GATT of 1947, which is not so new, and then with the new Article 24 of 1994 GATT. The 94 GATT, or 1994 GATT, reads, you will change from integration zone to regional trade zones. In order to determine that two or more countries are negotiating according to Article 24, duty preferences should comply with this methodology in Article 24 of the GATT 1994. And this is what we have within the WTO framework based on GATT 1994. Two or more countries, if the case is like this, they need to report the WTO that they are going to negotiate an integration zone starting by a free trade zone, like the monetary economic zone, so they will have the free trade agreement spirit, and the clause of the most favored nation is included in the WTO. So these two countries or more have a national treatment, and that's what Article 24 of the 1994 GATT has. That is Mexico and Chile, Mexico and Colombia, Mexico with Costa Rica, Nicaragua, Salvador, Guatemala. They negotiate and under the specifications of Article 24, a free trade agreement. Therefore, these country members, they waive to Article number 21, so by means of Article 24 they have national treatment, and this is the duty preference. And how we materialize at accounting and numerical level this duty preference? By the origin rule. In accounting terms, it will let me know if this product complies with these four rules. So with one of them, then I will apply this duty preference.
From this country with which I signed a free trade agreement, so I can offer this merchants like this. Sorry, this is a discount, a tariff discount. B, that is exempted of the tariff or based in the detaxation calendar that complies with this process. This is what we have in the W Trade Organization. What do we have in TPP? Well, here my colleague Rodrigo Hernandez, which is an expert in these matters, told me not forget to tell you this. Colleague, the TPP has 19 sectors of rules of origin, and this is what is going to be modified. I highlight this. You know this better than me. We'll modify the accounting part of the merchandise. It transforms completely. That is why this TPP is transcending. The TPP, if the four methods of the NAFTA were complicated, now with the TPP, what we need to know is like the different mechanisms within those 19 sectors to determine in accounting granting terms, how am I going to grant to this country or those 11 countries the tariff preference to determine if it enters or not. So if you remember the European Union, the Euro Communitary Tariff, or the Minister of the U.S., you have one has 10 columns, the other one has 12 columns. With TPP, all this process of tariffs will be transformed in terms of presentation on the U.S. side. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to give this tariff preference. How am I going to grant it? Yeah, through the treaty to make tangible the feedback, the reciprocal feedback. This is the big difference that we have with NAFTA. So how I'm going to determine the precedence, how I will say customs authority that this merchandise comes from this or that country. This is through a certificate on rules of origin, and those certificates are present in the annexes, and the operational part of the treaty in terms of rules of origin is in the tariff classification, where it will tell me the respective tariff, that the merchandise, it has a preference, it comes from a certain country. So I need to demonstrate that the merchandise complies with it. So therefore, I need to know all the methods in order to determine the value of origin of the merchandise. All those four methods, the 1% originary, the regional, extra-regional, and minimis, transcended from the NAFTA to the WTO organization based on the Article 24 of the WTO via the committee of ASEAN, the Regional Agreement Committee. So establish this methodology. So from there, the negotiating countries of the TPP may be able to perform. This is the WTO methodology. How this is applied? How this is applied to the TPP countries? This is the WTA methodology. This is the example. Could be extractive agriculture, or from the sea. This is a totally origin product. Except the tariff jump, the merchandise comes from country with which I have a free trade agreement, but inputs are incorporated from another country. So I always give this example. I have the wood from Brazil. I assemble furniture in Mexico and export it to the U.S. If I have the wood, the raw wood from Brazil, Chapter 44 of the tariff. If I send it and I manufacture with this fine wood the furniture for an office, I'm going to sell it in the U.S., and this is Chapter 93, which is furniture for offices. This is the tariff jump. So the authority needs to say what is the percentage of that good incorporates inputs or material to have the tariff preference. And therefore, we have the two methods. The original content value method. You know the formulas better than me. This is the original content, the transaction value, and the net cost. How this is represented. So only how I represent this through through an accounting part. How this is translated in TPP? This is how the TPP negotiated those so-called rules of origin. Those are 19 sectors. Because of time reasons, along with Rodrigo, I just put on the table two cases: car industry and textile industry, because they have the most weight in this TPP relationship. So what the TPP does, it evolves the methodology of NAFTA and of the WTO. Once the TPP evolves the methodology of rules of origin, in parallel, the TPP is being negotiated. What is the transatlantic treaty will do? It will make the TPP methodology as itself. So they will leaving behind the methodology of the WTO. They're not against it. It's evolving it. So the interesting thing here is to know in detail all the rules of origin of the TPP in terms of this exchange between the member countries of this treaty. Well, let's go into detail with respect to the formulas. The product obtained in the region. Well, I put on the table the car industry case, because this is one of the three value chains